So as you might notice, the screen's a little darker. That's because I'm recording this at 9:30 at night, so it's a little dark outside, and my room doesn't have proper lights, so I have this here, and I have fairy lights up around the room. But that's pretty much all I have for lighting. But still, I wanted to read out a story because I don't feel like going to sleep. Now the story that I have chosen today is one that I've been thinking a lot about recently because I've seen a lot of facts about Khonsu brought up recently due to the new Moon Knight TV series by Marvel. I think that's what it is. And I don't know. I haven't seen any of it. Like I haven't watched any of the I haven't watched any of the episodes. So, but I've seen a lot of posts about it, mostly on Tumblr, and I don't really like it. I feel like it demonizes Khonsu a little too much. I don't know. I've just heard a lot of the cannibal god thing, and none of the son of Amun and Mut, you know? And the cannibal god thing, it only lasted during the Old Kingdom and prehistory. So, the cannibal god Khonsu actually comes from one story, and it's not even specifically about Khonsu eating the gods, at least not the first original line that he's mentioned in. It's actually about a dead king, and this script comes from Unas's pyramid, I think in the antechamber before you get to the actual grave. It's very interesting. You should look it up. It looks really cool, that antechamber. Anyway, so this piece of scripture, some of the oldest scripture in the world, comes from the Old Kingdom, is called The Dead King Hunts and Eats the Gods. It is in the Pyramid Utterances 273-274. So here's how it starts. The sky is overcast, the stars are darkened, the celestial expanses quiver, the bones of the earth gods tremble, the planets are stilled. For they have seen the king appearing in power as a god who lives on his fathers and feeds on his mothers. The king is a master of wisdom, whose mother knows not his name. The glory of the king is in the sky, his power is in the horizon. Like his father Atum who begot him, he begot the king, and the king is mightier than he. The king's powers are about him, his qualities are under his feet, his gods are upon him. His Uri, I don't know how to pronounce this, but I know what it is. Uri, it's the snake, basically, that's on the crown of a lot of Egyptian pharaohs' crowns. His urae are on the crown of his head, the king's guiding serpent is on his brow, even that which sees the soul, efficient for burning. Now this phrase, efficient for burning, is a little weird because there's no actual direct translation. Efficient for burning refers more to the royal serpent's efficiency in spitting fire at hostile beings. So the royal serpent is the urae, however it's called. And, well, that went out. Anyway, efficient for burning essentially means that he is good at spitting fire like the royal snake. The king's neck is on his trunk. Trunk meaning in its proper place and not detached from his body. The king is the bull of the sky, Osiris, and sometimes Khonsu, who conquers at will, who lives on the being of every god, who eats their entrails, even of those who come with their bodies full of magic from the Island of Fire. The Island of Fire is a mythical locality where the dead foregather before passing on to their respective destinies. The king is one equipped who assembles his spirits. The king has appeared as this great one, a possessor of helpers. He sits with his back to Geb. Geb is a god, the earth god. For it is the king who will give judgment in company with him whose name is hidden, on that day of slaying the oldest ones. The king is a possessor of offerings who knots the cord. Knots the cord is a reference to binding sacrificial victims. So you'll see this in the Narmer palette. I think the Narmer palette, but there's other things you see it in too, where you'll see basically foreign soldiers or just foreign citizens bound with their hands behind their back, and they're being tugged on by a rope. Anyway, the king is a possessor of offerings who knots the cord and who himself prepares his meal. The king, Unas, is one who eats men and lives on the gods, a possessor of porters who dispatches messages. It is the grasper of top-knots who is Kahau. Now, Kahau could also refer to an area as in one who is in Kahau. Anyway, it is grasper of top-knots who is Kahau, who lassos them for the king. It is the serpent with raised head, who guards them for him and restrains them for him. It is he who is over the blood offering, who binds them for him. It is Khonsu, who slew the lords, who strangles them for the king, and extracts for him what is in their bodies. For he is the messenger whom the king sends to restrain. It is Shezmu, another god, specifically the wine-press god. It is Shemzu, who cuts them up for the king, and who cooks for him a portion of them on his evening hearthstones. It is the king who eats their magic and gulps down their spirits. The big ones, are for his morning meal. The middle-sized ones are for his evening meal. The little ones are for his night meal. Their old men and their old women are for his incense burning. It is the great ones in the north of the sky, as in the circumpolar stars, who set the fire for him to the cauldrons containing them with their thighs of the oldest ones. Those who are in the sky serve the king, and the hearthstones are wiped over for him with the feet of their women. He has traveled around the whole of the two skies, meaning the sky above the Nile and then the sky above the Duat, so basically the two, it's like Earth and then like the underworld, basically. So the two skies. He has circumambulated the two banks, meaning the two banks of the Nile. For the king is a great power, who has power over the powers. The king is a sacred image, the most sacred of the sacred image of the great ones. And whomsoever he finds in his way, him he devours piecemeal. The king's place is at the head of all the august ones who are in the horizon. For the king is a god older than the oldest. Thousands serve him. Hundreds offer to him. There is given to him a warrant as great power by Orion, father of the gods. Hope you got that. Important stuff. The king has appeared again in the sky. He is crowned as lord of the horizon. He has broken the backbones and has taken the hearts of the gods. He has eaten the red crown. He has swallowed the green one. Those are the two crowns of Upper and Lower Egypt. The king feeds on the lungs of the wise ones and is satisfied with living on hearts and their magic. The king revolts against licking that part is blank, so we don't know what he revolts against licking, which are in the red crown. He enjoys himself when their magic is in his belly. The king's dignities shall not be taken away from him, for he has swallowed the intelligence of every god. The king's lifetime is eternity, his limit is after everlastingness. In this his dignity of, if he wishes, he does, if he dislikes, he does not. Even he who is at the limits of the horizon forever and ever. See, their souls are in the king's belly, their spirits are in the king's possession, as the surplus of his meal out of the gods, which is cooked for the king out of their bones, of bone broth, basically. See, their souls are in the king's possessions, their shades are removed from their owners. While the king is this one who ever appears and endures, and the doers of ill deeds have no power to destroy, the favorite place of the king among those who live in this land, forever and ever. So yeah. It was written essentially for a pharaoh, and it only mentions Khonsu once, and it only mentions Shezmu once. It's not saying that particularly any of the gods are cannibals. That's actually mentioned later in a different one. I don't remember which one it is. But in this one where it originally mentions them, he's not the one eating them. He's just the one helping to prepare them for Unas, the dead king. Let me see if I can find the other one. Because there is another mention that is, like, very specifically bad. Okay, so I couldn't find it. It's probably in some other type of Old Kingdom text or something, but I do remember it explicitly stated that Khonsu fed on hearts, which is, mildly cannibalistic. But otherwise, yeah, that's that story, kind of. I found a couple other ones while I was searching, a couple other stories I want to share, just because they're interesting. Right now, I've only ever gone over, like, stories that are, like, short stanzas and stuff. There are actually texts in there that are, like, full-on paragraphs, like a written letter. There's a lot of them, actually. There's less, stanza-like, writings than there is, like, book-like block text. Anyway. So, yeah, that was that story. Interesting story.